All right, so I will get started because we have a lot to cover today. So if we haven't had the chance to talk, my name is Adam. I kind of started this snowball that's known as the Student Org Summit. So I'm beyond excited that there's about 70 people here. Our last workshops have been around 100, which is much more than I expected. So that's super exciting. Before we dive into today's topic, I did want to let people know we just scheduled our next topical workshop. The first ones to hear about it. We are going to be talking about advising on societies. And so we have a campus that's interested in leading that discussion. So on March 20th, so it gives you about a month. Fifth at this time, we're going to talk about honor societies and the little engagement that they have. How do you work with those sorts of groups that people just pay a due? And that's really all they want. So if you're interested in that conversation, be sending out details the next couple days. We are also launching some kind of small discussions because a lot of folks want to talk with more campuses like yourselves. So we put out a survey a couple weeks ago, I think that a lot of people filled out, kind of asking for what topics, if people wanted to moderate conversations. So we've reached out to a handful of people that seemed interested in leading conversations that aligned with what a lot of people wanted to see. So we're going to have about probably 11 or 12 different discussion groups that are going to pop up. Some of these are regional. So is my audio cutting in and out for other people? Okay, I will talk slower. It could be me. It is a struggle with internet connections and Wi-Fi. I will just talk slowly. It can also be my microphone. It could be a lot of things. So we're going to have these discussion groups. So in the next couple weeks, you'll get emailed about what those opportunities are, how to sign up for them. So it might be regional. It could be by the types of groups you work with. There's going to be a lot of options for you. So yes, could be bandwidth, could be a lot of different things. So today's topic. We are talking about officer transitions. So this could mean a lot of different things. This could be documents that you provide to student orgs to help them transition. This could be trainings that you offer. It could be in person, it could be virtual. It could mean a lot of different things. So we are going to start the snowball with something that we do at the University of California, Riverside. It's still a pilot program, but it's something you might be able to steal. And then we'll kind of see if there's other campuses that might be interested in sharing their things. So I am going to drop a link in the chat so that you can see this document as we're going through it in case you want to save it. So that links you to a Dropbox link. You can download the PDF. But I'm also going to share it here so we can see it all together. So what we're going to look at is something called a transition manual. This is something that, again, is a pilot program. This is the second year that we're trying it out with a small groups. And this is a document that incoming and outgoing officers should complete together. So it's got some activities. It asks a lot of questions. So we're just going to show you what we do in this manual, and there might be things that you can replicate. This pilot is pretty much just for presidents, and so it covers high-level things that student orgs should be doing. And then we, based on the feedback that we receive, we're then going to hopefully create transition manuals for different positions. So if I'm the incoming treasurer, I will be the treasurer transition manual with the person that's leaving that position. But we're doing the pilot with just the president manual to see if it's effective, if people are using it. And so we are in that process to see how students react to this. In a nutshell, it is broken up into just a couple different sections. The big three are basic level functioning, intermediate level functioning, and advanced level functioning, which essentially how much work they want to put in, how successful they want their group to be. If they are kind of just want the basics, they're going to complete these activities and questions that are in this basic level. But then if they want to win awards, they want to go above and beyond, they want to do new things, they might look at these advanced level items. And then there's a couple sections at the end of things an incoming president should know. So let's take a look at the basic level here. And again, you can download this document if you want to see, later, if you want to save this, give it to someone else to look at. It's all yours. So let's say that I'm the incoming president of a club, and I'm going to go through this, and it's going to ask me questions, and I'm going to, complete these activities with the help of the person leaving my position. So I'm going to look at this section and say, okay, the first thing we need to do is review this manual through and say, yes, we are reviewing this manual together. And then we have a date set to talk about it. So this is kind of starting the snowball, right? The next thing might be reviewing a student org handbook, right? So knowing policies and procedures. So I'm going to say, yes, okay, my homework now is to read this manual. When I finish that handbook and I feel like I understand those policies, I'll check this off. So this is all homework that they're going to complete on their own. They can either sit down and try to do it all at once, or have this be, a couple weeks or a month, however long that transition period might take. It's going to be different for all of us. So your campus might be very different. Our database we use is Campus Labs Engage. And so we have a section about learning how that works. And so we reference a video. So this transition manual does point out to different resources, videos, trainings that they might want to participate.
What's that?
Yeah, okay. And then it talks about passing on important information they need to have. And so this is I'm not gonna go through every page like this, but there's sections to fill in. And so does the incoming president know the passwords for all the different accounts they might have, banking information? A lot of this stuff often gets lost in transition. And so a place for them just to write down, okay, I know how to use everything. I know where information is kept. Just a place to put that. We ask about their advisors and other resources they might have on campus. They can put their contact info here, how often they meet with that person. This may seem like these questions are a little easy, but it's triggering that conversation where the incoming president might say, like, I didn't even know we had an advisor. How often do you meet with them? What do you talk about? So this just prompts questions and conversation for the two people to talk, right? And again, this is just the president. And so our transition manual for treasurer might be very different questions, different things they need to talk about. So this is just guiding that conversation. This is all basic stuff again. So let's go to some of the advanced, kind of deeper stuff. So intermediate is kind of the middle level, right? So we talk about budgeting. We have a lot of clubs that may not use a lot of funding, and so budgeting may not be a top priority. They may be fine with very little. They talk about executive and committee meetings. A lot of groups may not have committees, but some might. And so getting them to talk about what is our structure, what do these groups do, who leads committees, a lot of questions for them to think about. We talk about Robert's Rules of Order, which a lot of groups, an incoming president may not know what that is, or they may want to institute that in their club. And so this is telling them, here's the basics of how to do this if they want to, right? So intermediate is a little bit more optional, but things that they should be doing. Then we get to advanced level functioning, which is things like setting SMART goals, being really proactive about what they want to achieve in the organization for the year. These are things that are not mandatory, but if they want to be advanced, these are the things that they'll do. It talks about collaboration. And so departments or other organizations that they work with, who are they working with? What's that contact person there? What sort of stuff did you do? A lot of this is just history, right? So that in the future, this, the new president knows historical context. Who did we work with on different projects? Who should I email? Things like that. After all of these different categories, there's a lot here, a lot of different things. We have a timeline that we give them. So when in the year should the president be doing certain things? And there's some fill in the blanks for them to fill in specific. Every spring we have this event, we do this thing every fall. So for them to create their timeline of the year. And then some recommendations. So that's really for us. If they think of something, this would have been handy for us to have. This section didn't make sense. Yeah, and then this links to a post evaluation. So we asked them to do a pre-evaluation, kind of where they were before using the manual. And then we asked them to fill out where they are after the manual, how helpful it was, especially in these first couple years. So I have been ignoring the chat. I'm going to see if there's any questions there. People have been sharing some stuff.
Adam, my question was accountability wise, right? Like these resources are awesome and I love that they're available for student groups. But do you track if they actually use it? Is that what the evaluation piece is for? And do you just hope that they find it, use it? Like, how do you?
Yeah, right now we're just hoping, right? Because we are still seeing, this is something we think is a good idea, but we're making sure that students, this makes sense for them, it's useful. Is it asking the right questions? Is it missing something? So we're not really doing a lot in terms of accountability, like this is not required, but we might get to that point once we have a firm grip on this document is helpful and we've refined it to the point where we are, we want to make this some sort of requirement. A lot of you went to my presentation at the summit about the blueprint for success. Like this is something that we might mandate certain groups that are struggling or they are trying to be better. We might ask them to complete this, but we're probably a long ways from mandating that all 500 of our groups complete this. Yeah, so that is pretty much what we do at Riverside. You can take a look at that document, steal it, use it. Does anybody have questions for us before we open up the floor to others to share?
I want to echo Jen's question in the chat about, is it shared with you, or like at the end of this, do they send it back to you, or is that the hope next year once it's not just a pilot program?
Right now they don't. So really it's for the benefit of the president who just filled it out to learn. So we don't really ask for a copy. Sorry, I'm gonna drop the document again in the chat. Yeah, so we don't ask for a copy or anything. We just hope that they do it. We hope that it's useful. I don't know how much of that information is useful to us. It's all internal. We only have limited bandwidth. Yeah, so that's where we are now. Michelle.
Okay. Okay, so the manual, I'm seeing another manual in like a handbook. We have that as well. I'm curious what the reality is of students actually sitting down and reading that. And so I wasn't sure if others had like a variation of a org manual opposed to like, I know it's easiest, let's just put it all in this big booklet, but is there, yeah, I'm just curious if there's others out there who have different concepts for those, knowing our students and their generation.
Yeah, I will say, we also know that a document is not the best way. It's a way, but Jasmine's the org who kind of took the lead on creating this. We are now toying around with the idea of doing a video, so almost like a sit down and watch this together, and then it'll say pause the video and answer, what are your traditional events each year and how does that work? And then, they can talk and then get back.
So I made a call. See, first, do it. I sent you an email. Oh.
Sorry. Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, I think we're good. So yeah, so we're toying around with that, but we want to know the content is good before we start creating a video module. Yeah, so who else wants to share trainings, documents, resources? You can, looks like Elva has something to say.
Yeah, I was thinking that, like, I think I'm actually a student, and I'm in like I'm a club president, and this resource actually is something that I've been wanting to do for like a really long time, because it's really good to have like the documentation of everything, so because it makes it so much easier for the two groups that are working hard now and transitioning that work to the next e-board. It makes it so much easier and so much better. And like I think that these things should be done like in sections instead of all at once, because it can be overwhelming if it is all at once. So having like maybe like weekly check-ins, and like that would be like each section, each part of like, let's do social media this week, let's get all of the social media stuff done this week, and then next let's talk about the Constitution this week. Like it would be really helpful to just like split it up, but still have all of that documentation together. I think is a really good idea.
So almost like a
and I
series.
appreciate that hard work. Like that probably took a really long time to come up with. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Doing like a series of conversations as opposed to a 5-hour sit down and complete everything. Yeah, that's great. Who else wants to share with the group? Yeah, Margaret.
Hi, so I'm from Boston University, so a little bit different coast on over here. But I think something that it's not really something that we've kind of tried yet, but I'm hoping to kind of engage with a bit more, is that we've actually kind of linked with everything being virtual. We put a lot of our training materials online through a Blackboard course. We've never really used Blackboard before, but we created a course that's just live and active and an ongoing course. And so we can add our different videos, add, different quizzes and stuff. I kind of walk through the training pieces. And there's also, because it's a course, you can add places for discussion and engagement and different kind of interaction. So it's a kind of platform that we're hoping we may be able to utilize a bit in terms of kind of our student leaders and this kind of transition piece to just have conversation, have that not even just within old and new leaders of the same organization, but also between leaders and trying to have a bit more collaboration. It's not something that we haven't been able to delve into it as much this year, just because we're kind of learning the Blackboard course ourselves, and we want to make sure students separate it from like academic oriented things. We don't want that to get confused for extracurriculars, but just kind of another place, another platform to engage, have discussion, and a bit more back and forth. And so it's also that collaboration piece between organizations that I think sometimes groups may not have officers who are leaving in a good place, or just don't really want to kind of engage as much as they're leaving their officer position. So making sure that you could find support in potentially another student organization as well.
Yeah, awesome. Ken_1098.
Yes, first let me apologize. I thought I did not hit computer audio, but apparently I did. But I do want to say we don't use Blackboard, but we do use Canvas. So we kind of similar what Margaret was saying, but it is great for collaborations, and hopefully we just got away from Blackboard, but hopefully we can continue to find avenues to continue to move forward.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think it's good to hear what sites people use for modules and trainings and activities. So if you have a favorite, either you can speak up and tell us about it, especially free services I know people are always looking for.
Right. Could you speak a little bit on the kind of Canvas or what you use for your system right now to create that kind of engagement? I know you're saying you're switching from kind of Blackboard and Canva, but if there's something you use now that works well for that kind of collaboration for student leaders, or if you're just trying that out.
We're just trying it out. We have a JSU online department where they stated that, a lot of schools have gotten away from Blackboard. So when we went to Canvas, and like I said, Blackboard was great, but they were trying Canvas as a different avenue to try to continue to build on what we were doing. So I will try to find that information while we're still on, so I can let you all know exactly what we do with it.
Foster.
If I could find my mouse, it makes it a whole lot easier. So currently we are using Google. So not the most ideal system, but we are a Google campus, University of Maryland, College Park. And so we have everything kind of saved and like published and put on our website so people can find the modules and like all those different aspects, but we are also in the process of transitioning to Canvas as well, because in some research that we did with our student leaders, they really appreciated having that class associated with it because they already get notified when other assignments are due. So if we assigned a like president's module, they could automatically like, it would just be put into their taskbar and then they like would just naturally come in.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds really convenient and easy. Christy.
Hi, everybody. I was just gonna throw in there, I'm from Western U in Southern California. We used to use Blackboard for like a transition officer quiz. And we stopped using Blackboard as a university, so we use Qualtrics now. So like the survey tool, we use that for the quiz. It doesn't really help them, I guess, if they get it wrong because they just submit it and it's done, but it's a lot easier, super helpful to use. And then for transition documents or club annual reports, clubs used to use Google, but we've really tried to force them to use SharePoint.
Okay. Becca.
So with our clubs on campus, we use Canvas for the training module, and then we allow them to go through, take the quiz, and then during one of our meeting, we review the answers with them so that everybody can stay on the same page and move forward through the e-board. I'm the student club council chair on the Walla Walla Community College campus. So I would technically be just the moderator, the overseer of the clubs. And so we use that platform, but we also use Teams as well so that they can stay in contact. All of the club advisors can stay in contact. All the files are uploaded that way. But then I also have one for the executive club representatives too, so then they can have more than one avenue to find all of the documents that they need.
Yeah, awesome. I see some discussion in the chat now about kind of one-off transition summits, meetings. Does anyone have a successful model of something you do that you want to share about kind of everyone come together and try to do all this at once? Who has a good way of doing that? Yeah, Luke.
For me, we sort of go around to all the different clubs. I'm an SGA, so it's not necessarily a club in itself, but we have all the other clubs sort of like, for example, like if there's like a knitting club, people like to make, like sweaters or whatever. We'll go to that club and we'll say, all right, what are all the events you guys are doing? And what are the days you guys are meeting? We'll say, all right, we'll write those down. And then we'll go to the next club. We'll say that club, they like balloons, the balloon club, for example. So we'll get their information and we'll sort of, like I said, we'll just go around to all the different clubs, organize it, and organize it into a fashion that's very user friendly, and we can get that out to everybody else on campus.
Yeah, awesome. Does anybody else want to share a checklist, a manual, activities? I know some people dropped documents in the chat. Does anyone want to show off what you do and we can ask questions? Or we can swerve if no one else has anything to talk about here.
I think, Adam, question is like the implementation, right? And so are groups, like, are there campuses who are just implementing something? I'm sure there are campuses who have like, this is what we've done year after year and it's worked and it's been great. So I guess that would be my question is how is the implementation process going for some of these groups for campuses?
Yeah, I think maybe a follow-up question to that is if anyone maybe mandates something like this, because I think that'll determine if it's just an optional resource you drop on a website people can use, you're not really needing to worry about tracking requirements. So is there anybody that mandates some sort of transition activity, summit? Who requires something like that? Does anyone want to speak up?
This is Margaret. I can kind of speak to a bit of kind of a balance that. So our office, we in the past have required one. This spring, we still did our standard training, but it was not required because of everything going on. We just felt that we didn't really have a handle on how to do everything virtually, so it wasn't a required training, but normally it is required, and we do kind of ask students to be coming together. We normally are doing it in person and having them kind of go to, I'm saying breakout rooms, but like breakout tables and having conversations between kind of student leaders. So normally it's required, but I'm at Boston University. I haven't seen it happen. I haven't been here long enough to kind of see the in-person piece. So ours was totally virtual, but the one that I kind of have more experience with is just, I'm an advisor for my sorority, and we mandate officer transition as a part of officer training process. So it is mandated. It does depend sometimes on how supportive or present advisors are, on how successful those are, because sometimes it can just kind of turn into leaders talking amongst themselves and like, oh, I think I've got enough from you and I'm going to leave now. So like when it is a lot more guided, we have a lot of those training materials, but I think that something that I've seen is that even in those kind of mandated trainings, the difficulty comes of when you have new officers who are really eager, really engaged, ready to hit the ground running, and then outgoing officers who are either checked out or like either are leaving because they aren't like interested in the role anymore or are really frustrated. And so the kind of balance between those two is difficult. And so wanting to make sure the conversation is happening between those leaders, that they're getting the passwords, they're getting, all the information and, old resources, but then having the struggle that a lot of then our student leaders are kind of feeling checked out and don't really want to have that discussion or want to make it as brief as possible is kind of the difficulty that I don't think that we've kind of solved, whether it's from my work with Greek Life or from student organizations. So if anyone has a solution to that or just leaving out the outgoing leaders, but I think that kind of becomes a challenge in its own way of missing out on that kind of historical reference, I guess, for the student group.
Yeah, I think there is a difference. Some people are just, I think, talking about kind of your process to train people every year. And so required trainings and discussions, but I think that could be different than transition, right? So we're talking about conversations between outgoing, incoming, that, transition of information. And so I think that's what we're trying to focus on now. Jen, you have something?
Yeah, we've tried different things almost every year that I've been in this position, and nothing's quite stuck really well. We do a traditional event and in our spring quarter, April, May-ish, where we talk about the re-registration process. We use Engage platform, so talking about how to go through that re-registration, talking about legacy documents and the importance of that. We review how to get ready for info fair for the fall and how to plan events over the summer so that you can hit the ground running, those kind of things. And we've tried different things where we pair them up, outgoing and incoming leaders, and like actually do some sharing during the event. And we haven't mandated it, so it's been lower attendance than we've wanted. But what we tried last year is we had a form in Engage where each page had a different video giving them the information that we wanted them to do. So it was an asynchronous event almost. And in order for their re-registration process to be approved, they had to submit that form. So we knew that they went through it. And we just trusted that they actually watched the videos, which you could tell that, they would not do things totally correct. And we obviously didn't watch that video but that worked okay until we started the year. And then it just got really weird and not helpful anymore. because we like talk about info fair, but then info fair completely changed because COVID and didn't know anyways. But that's some things that we've tried. And then really stressing that required event for kickoff at the beginning of the year for that, what you're saying, the training at the start of the year.
Mm-hmm. All right, who else has thoughts, questions, something to share?
I'm so not to get so granular, but one of the things I wish Engage was able to do was if Adam's the new president, I get like a notification that a new president has been assigned. So I'm curious.
Michelle, we can't hear you anymore. Oh, there we go.
We couldn't
Please
hear you
hold.
for the last bit.
I have an answer.
Okay.
I have an answer about Engage. Is she still on?
Yes, I'm here. My audio just cut out.
Okay, when you re-register, when the groups re-register their organizations, that's how I get who the new officers are. And I make the groups do it once a year or they go on probation. And when they re-register, it automatically sends you an email from Engage saying that that has been updated. And that's how I make them do their new officers.
Yeah, but the system doesn't alert you if people aside from registration are changing positions. That's the tricky thing. Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't count it unless they re-register it when they're putting new officers.
Yeah. Foster, you have something?
Yeah, so we also use Engage, and we've looked at the re-registration process. We saw that as a problem. And so we are transitioning, hopefully this fall, to doing 2 registration cycles. So one in the fall to catch those orgs that do those elections at the end of the fall semester, and then one in the spring to catch those orgs that are doing it then. So that way, for transition, we are naturally aligning with what groups are doing, and we're not forcing them to get into this one box of like, well, it's spring and it's April and you got to register, and like half the groups do that, and then half the groups change their officers, and then we get a bunch of questions and we're like, how do you not know this policy? It's like, because you didn't take our president training, and that's because you transitioned at a different time. But I also agree, I wish there was another way that we could get that information with outside of the registration process.
So Foster, they can do either, they don't have to do both, right? They just have 2 opportunities.
Correct. So like this past registration, so like last April, we asked all the orgs, when do you elect officers? And we give them a bunch of options. And so we're using that information, hopefully for like next year. We're gonna ask them again for this upcoming registration, just because, you know, higher ed bureaucracy got delayed. And you'll only have to register once. And if you want to re-register again, like I'm not going to stop you from re-registering. You can put in that form as many times as you want, but we are looking at just making it one time based off of the your election cycle. If that makes sense.
Yeah, great. Luke.
Yes, sir. One of the things we do at Warwick is when we elect new officers, we do the election and we figure out who is going to do it, and the winners or whatever, you know, for the various positions, we got president, secretary, whatever. What we do when we're transitioning is at the end of the year, the last 2 weeks of the semester, we train them basically. And we sit them down in our office and in our seats, and we just say, this is what we do. We just show them how to do it. So that way, that next fall, when they're actually going to be in when they're actually going to be doing it, they know how to do it basically.
And we wish every club did that, right? That's the problem, is how do
yeah, definitely
get that? Yeah.
I hear you. This is just an SGA sort of thing. I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. No, that's like the best practice, right? Like to sit down, actually talk to the person, get their wisdom, right? Everything they've learned, so that the new person is equipped. But that does not happen all the time. I meet with a lot of presidents that have no idea what they're doing. They just said, someone told me I'm president now, and that's it, right? So how do we fix that problem? Who else has an idea, question, something to share? Margaret, is your hand up again?
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Okay.
something. I was about to just kind of put it in the chat, but it's relevant that we haven't used it yet for transition training, but definitely could be used, is that for our regular training for our student leaders. If anyone uses like Kaltura, I don't exactly really know, but it's kind of like a software system that's through our kind of My Media website, and you can use it to basically embed a quiz within a video. So we had a kind of pre-recorded video that walked through a different training, and throughout it, it asked questions, and you can't kind of proceed to the next portion until you answer that question. So we found that, for at least in terms of training, was definitely something that was helpful for either those who missed the training or were able to kind of use it afterwards. I think in terms of that transition piece could also be utilized. We haven't used it. Yeah, it's Kaltura. I don't know. It's like through our university. So I just looked it up to see if it's an actual company and not just like a BU type thing, but it's kind of through like our My Media website. And so it's called like Kaltura, I believe. And so it's embedded. We can kind of link it up with like videos that we upload, and then link it with like Qualtrics as well. I think just kind of connect in. Yeah, oh, there we go, okay. That's right, Kaltura. So it's just a cool feature that was able to add those quizzes and make sure, and also it documents the response. And so that you really know that they actually have watched the video. They can't skip over a question and move past it, whether they actually answer it correctly. I don't think it stops you from moving on if you answer it wrong. I think it just tells you that it's wrong. But you also can embed, I think it's in the Qualtrics portion, like why something was incorrect, to kind of give an explanation. So just kind of a cool way to add, again, that kind of video feature. So it's not maybe just sitting and watching a PowerPoint. It's something that's a little bit more engaging, especially in the virtual aspect. That was an important piece for us to add.
Yeah, awesome. We have something from Naomi.
Hey everyone, I'm from Berklee College of Music. This is not a suggestion. This is more of just like a situation that we're dealing with that I thought maybe the Mind Hive could help out with. But we have kind of a unique situation right now where enough turnover has happened amongst our clubs because of like our virtual semester in the fall and then our hybrid semester now, and just everything that we actually are kind of at a good point with some of our trickier clubs. So we've gotten kind of enough turnover that some of those bad habits are no longer amongst the board and are maybe not going to continue to be passed down, which is really exciting. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to capitalize on that moment and not let that kind of pass me by when they get mixed in with all the rest of the clubs who maybe do have some of those same officers that are passing down. So I really want to treat our clubs that are starting as a little bit of a clean slate and take that opportunity to start them fresh and not allow our other clubs who aren't starting with a clean slate to maybe taint that a little bit. So if anyone has some thoughts on that, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Does anybody have thoughts or a response?
What, can she repeat the question?
Yeah, just about making sure, like we have some clubs who have previously had a lot of maybe negative experiences with our office or have had to go through conduct processes multiple times. And not all of those clubs, but several of those clubs are now in a situation where all of the, potentially problematic board members have moved on and have kind of left the club with very new board members who weren't aware of previous like disciplinary issues. And so that's a really cool position to be in, because we've got clubs that for several years in a row we're getting these bad habits passed down that are now starting with a clean slate of students who weren't aware of any of these issues in the past. I just want to make sure that I don't kind of mix them in with other clubs who are still having those same issues, and I want to make sure that I capitalize on that clean slate. So looking for some advice or thoughts in that realm.
I think it's a tough place to be, because those groups, you might have opportunities But then I think there's also going to be groups that have lost a year of historical knowledge, and like, you know, their big event that they put on every year, they didn't do. And so now the new officers may not have seen, they don't know how things work. So I think you've got this kind of hodgepodge of groups that are now kind of starting back at 0 and groups that have come down from 100. And, you know, everyone's going to be in different places. And so we're in a tough spot to try to train and equip people at varying levels, right? Yeah, does anybody else have thoughts or suggestions? Well, Naomi, yeah, Luke.
Something I thought of is having a organization constitution, and that something, a set in stone paper, set of rules, they just sort of hand down basically. That can be amended as need be.
Yeah, I think a lot of clubs probably have constitutions.
They do, they just don't read it.
Yeah, the question is, do they understand it? And if they do understand it, are they following it? Because we don't always see, you know, the bad habits or things that are probably not happening around us. They're not happening on campus. They're things that, you know, we wouldn't know until they hit that conduct process. So I think it's a tough spot to be in, Naomi, but good luck. I think there's opportunities that you can definitely take advantage of, but it's also just that are at a disadvantage now. How do we help them too?
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot have.
Maybe even. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that my excitement was overwhelming when I got an email from a brand new officer from a particularly difficult club who said, "Hi, I don't really know what I'm doing, and everybody graduated."
I was gonna say, as something maybe to do again is to kind of connect those groups with ones that are like high functioning, and whether it's collaborating on an event or doing some type of program together, so maybe they can see some examples of like what good programming is, because they don't have any references to speak of. So maybe it's kind of doing that, and it's hard kind of depending on kind of the size of the university, of how many, literally a question then popping up about how many groups, because our campus we have about 450 groups, so there's a lot of groups to choose from, but that also means I don't always know if some groups are having kind of bad habits. Like I may not always be in the know again if that's happening on a larger campus, but if you have either a smaller campus or more limited groups, if you're more aware of those groups that can be kind of more troublesome, you could link them up with a group that you know is really high functioning, or saying, okay, why don't you collaborate with them, or connect with these leaders, they're really strong and they could kind of help you to give them a mentor, but in a different student organization if it's kind of related, to create that type of transition that doesn't exactly exist. But I've not had that happen yet with our groups.
I mean, I think the collaboration piece is a really good idea, right? You can almost set up play dates, be like, you should collaborate with this community service group that's doing really great things, and you know, you can help arrange some of those collaborations so that they're making good friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
All right, who else has questions, something to show off, new discussion points?
Adam, I see some things about advisors in the chat box, and I kind of wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing at Cal State Fullerton. At Cal State Fullerton, in the registration form every year, we ask our presidents, like, who's your advisor? What department do they work in? How often do you plan on meeting with this advisor, and what type of support are you looking for from this advisor? Are you looking for them to attend all your meetings and events? Are you looking for them to meet with you on a monthly, weekly basis? Like, are you looking for them to participate in like conversations and discussions, or are you just looking for a signatory? Like, when you say support, what does that support look like? After they complete that registration cycle, we then do a mail merge to all our advisors and say, hey, like, you've been listed as an advisor, you're going to get a training that you need to do online. But also, this is what the students said about what they're looking for from you in this role, because it changes every year. And so that's the start of our like ongoing communication with advisors. And so in the middle of the year, we can then go back to advisors and be like, hey, have you at least checked in with your students once this semester. Like at minimum, you should at least talk to them once a semester. And then as we're gearing up for the re-registration process, our timeline is May. In April, we have a number of transition workshops and all the things that we've talked about, telling them like, here is a transition guide, please, review this with your outgoing, incoming leaders, because that would be helpful. And then just like reminding them like of deadlines, dates, and things so that they can continue that communication with the organization. So it's just helpful to be able to maintain that communication if you do require your groups to have advisors on campus.
Yeah, those are great ideas. Julie?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Glenn, you said the advisor gets an email. You said something that made me go, wait a minute, like does the advisor, do they accept being an advisor?
So yes, it's expected that these students talk to the advisor. And so every once in a while, I'll have an advisor say like, I don't even know these students. Like I don't know who. And so then it's an opportunity for me to loop in those students and be like, hey, like this person on campus says that they're not your advisor. You need to figure it out. And so there's that piece that comes back to it as well. But when we notify the advisor, we say like, hey, you've been listed as the baking club advisor. This is the president. This is the treasurer. Here are their emails. This is what they said in terms of what the support that they're looking for from you.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, we have Elizabeth with something to say.
Hey, everybody. I'm Elizabeth from Northern Virginia Community College. I guess kind of on top of this discussion about advisors, I kind of wanted to pose this question to everybody. We like recently had a situation where a cultural club kind of disowned their advisor for different reasons. And the advisor in turn fought back saying, this is my club, but they're just that, an advisor. All they can really do is advise. So if anybody has dealt with a similar scenario, what has been your process to kind of mediate that situation and then work with the club to either find a new advisor or the advisor to, have them understand, hey, this was a voted on decision by the club. They have a constitution that, clearly states, hey, if they vote on it, you're out.
Yeah, I think you got to it, right? Like ultimately we have to back the student org up, that it's their decision if someone is an advisor for their club. We have a lot that are super overprotective and they're, instructors, they're people that take a lot of ownership in that club, but ultimately they are advisors, right? And so if a club chooses to not use that person, that's up to them. And sometimes we have to be the ones to come in and lay down the law, right, and tell them, sorry. I think advisors is a bigger topic. And so maybe we'll plan something for the next couple months to talk about advisor manuals, trainings. We're having a lot of issues with community advisors, like not faculty or staff, and a lot of Title IX cases, but they can't investigate people that aren't university affiliated. So what are they? How do you hold them accountable? So we have a lot of things going on here. So we will plan another hour just to talk about advisors. Who else has something to say, something to share? I'll give you all another maybe 20 seconds to chime in. All right, so this was helpful. Hopefully some of these resources come in handy. I'm going to compile everything that was shared in the chat, the different documents. And so those will all be emailed out, if not tomorrow, by Monday. We'll also be emailing you soon about those discussion groups if you want to join some of those. This is an exciting time. Thank you for you all keep coming to these things. So I appreciate you. So have a good Thursday and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.